everyone. So it's Friday, so time to have a little sit down chatty video talking about what I've read this week. So I'm going to talk about the books I finished. I read a ton of books this week, finished a lot because I participated in the tour.com readathon, which is hosted by beautifully bookish Bethany, and that has a lot of novellas. So I read several novellas. So yeah, finished a lot of things, and then I've got a few things I'm in the middle of. I'm gonna try really hard not to mess up my talking today because I really don't want to edit this video very much because I'm just tired. We went and played in a creek for a while this morning. It's gorgeous out, and yeah, we were out in the sun in the water for hours today playing. So now I'm just tired and I want to take a nap. So let's chat about some books. Hopefully I won't have to edit much. We can just get through this and then I can go take a nap. So some things I finished. So I'll do the tour.com things all together. So the other things I read that aren't tour.com, which tour.com is a publisher, in case you didn't know that. So this readathon was reading speculative fiction from that publisher. But anyways, the first three are not tour.com. I finished Scary Stories for Young Foxes by Christian McKay Heidecker, and this one was pretty much disappointing for me. Yeah, I was really looking forward to this book because the cover is really beautiful, and I just was looking forward to some creepy middle grade stories, but this wasn't really short stories like I expected from the cover. It was actually just one long story that was split up into little segments. Yeah, so it wasn't really the vibe I wanted, and I was just kind of disappointed a little bit by the quality. So yeah, not a new favorite, but it was fine. It's middle of the road. And then we also finished, my daughter and I are listening to, sorry, that's really shiny, Aro Shah and the City of Gold by Roshni Chokshi. This was book 4 in the series, and this was my least favorite of the series, but I'm still loving the series overall. I love the way she weaves in Hindu mythology into all these books, and I love the characters, I love the setting, I love all the they're very fast paced. I love all of that, love listening to them with my daughter. But this was not my favorite because the formula was a little different. This one was very repetitive in the formula. Let's go have a conflict, beat the conflict, and then hear a story, and then repeat. And also it's a little weird pacing at the end with, yeah. So, but the very ending was explosive, very much propelled us into the next one. And my daughter, as soon as we finished this one, she's like, we have to continue. I have to know what happened. She was in that complete shock of we can't stop there. We have to keep going. But it's a brand new book that just came out. And I'm like, well, I don't know if we'll get the audiobook right away because we might have to wait for it. And she's like, but we need to know what happened. So I just love that as her as a little reader that she's super excited about continuing these books. And then the last one that's not tour.com was The Countess Conspiracy by Courtney Milan. This is the third book in the Brother Sinister series, historical romance. And yeah, I needed this book because if you had watched my Friday reads last week, I had finished Bridgerton, or my wrap up. I had finished a Bridgerton book and I really hated it. I didn't like how the man was very, the hero of the story, was because he wasn't very heroic to me. He was horrible, just angry all the time and didn't treat the woman very well, in my opinion. I just didn't like that at all. But I loved this one. A lovely, sensitive man, that would not hurt his woman at all. That's what I wanted. So this is a friends to lovers type of thing. So these two characters have known each other since childhood, and she has a lot of trauma that she's dealing with, and he just is so patient and waits for her to be ready every step of the way. And so if you're looking for something that has tons of sexy times, this wouldn't have that because they wait a long time because he's being patiently waiting for her as she works through things, and also for her to trust him in that way. And to me, that's romantic right there. I don't need the sex scenes when I know that he's completely waiting for it to be consensual and for her to be enjoying the experience, and, for him to be supporting her the whole way. That is romance to me. So if you are somebody that likes that, a sensitive male main character hero, then pick up Courtney Milan. This one is the third book, but if you really didn't want to read the whole series, you could read them separately. And now the rest of the things I finished were tour.com. like I said, that is a publisher that does a lot of speculative fiction, and they do a lot of novellas, so short books. And so I finished 3 novellas, and then I've got some that I'm in the middle of. So once I finished, I read Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine Invalenti. I never read anything from this author, but I keep hearing about her, so I wanted to try out her work. And this is like slight horror, but like I'm a wimp when it comes to horror, so this is just more like there's like weird things going on, a little bit of, not necessarily suspense, just a little bit of like what's happening, but I wouldn't call this like full-on horror. It just has little elements. And yeah, I can't really tell you much of anything about this because it would be a spoiler, but basically it's just like our main character, Sophia, is living a perfect life with her perfect husband and everything is perfect, or is it? And that's basically all I can say because this is not the kind of book, it's so short, you can't really like give anything away, but I found this really interesting. I liked it a lot. And I actually, like, as soon as I finished it, I was like, I asked my husband, since it's only a 2-hour audiobook, I was like, can you listen to this audiobook? Because I want to chat about it. And yeah, so it's very quick read, and I would highly recommend the audiobook. The narrator was really good. And another Tor.com novella is Sisters of the Vast Black by Lena Rather. And this is basically a group of nuns, like a convent of nuns. Their convent is a ship in outer space. It's a living ship. So this is in the future, and so these nuns, they're in space and they travel around and visit different planets in order to perform like marriages and baptisms and things like that. So they're performing like religious duties out in outer space, and there's people living on different planets. And this one was middle of the road for me. Like, it's definitely very character driven, but then it like does a switch in the middle and suddenly becomes like an action film. It feels like it has a big switch. And so that didn't really work for me with the pacing, but I still like enjoyed it. It just won't be something that sticks with me because it kind of was off with the pacing. But I did like the concept of this like futuristic world where religion is still, you know, existing, and that these, you know, women are out there being nuns in space. So I just thought that concept was great. And then like we kind of learned about their interpersonal relationships on the ship, and we followed them performing some of their duties, and then like there's some action happening later. So this is a series, but I won't be continuing because like I said, it was just kind of average for me. And then the next one I finished was A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. And this one is like also set in the future, and robots have become like, you know, sentient or whatever, and they have separated from humanity. So humanity has said, okay, we're not going to use you as like servants anymore, that you can go live your own lives. But then this robot comes to like check on humanity. And yeah, we're basically just following this tea monk and this robot, and that's it. A lot of people have been loving this, and I didn't love it at all. I really was bored most of the time. I think this is very much a character-driven novel, and if you don't love the characters, then that's a problem. And for me, I just didn't like either of these main characters. I didn't feel like anything for them, and so I just didn't really care to just sit and listen to them have a conversation, because that's basically most of this book, is this robot and this monk talking philosophically and talking about the world and life and all that. And I'm like, I don't care, because I just didn't really care about them as characters. That's probably a very unpopular opinion because almost everybody like universally loves this book, but yeah, it just didn't work for me, so I won't be continuing that series. And then I did DNF one book. I DNF'd American Hippo by Sarah Gailey. This is like taking place in an alternate history where in America, I don't know what time period this is, but they brought hippos over to like use as like cattle, basically. Yeah, and so it's like hippo cowboys. And it was too violent for me. That's why I DNF'd this. I read about 50 pages, and this is a series of novellas, so I was like, you know, I was a pretty good way into the first novella, since it was probably only a 150-page novella, and I made it 50 pages, but I just couldn't make myself keep going because there was a lot of knife violence, which gets a little gross to me. So yeah, after a couple episodes of like violence with knives, I was like, done with that. So that's everything I finished or DNF'd, and then the things that I'm in the middle of. So first, we are on the last book of Aro Shah and the Nectar of Immortality. So this is the last book, and I did end up being able to get the audiobook. I thought we were gonna have to wait, but I was able to get it from the library. So we are listening to it in the car, and we're already 75 pages in. So we're very excited to hear the conclusion of that. And then I have 2 more Tor.com things that the readathon ends today, so I don't know if I'll be finishing these today as part of the readathon, but I will finish them sometime in the next few days because I'm really enjoying both of them. I have Over the Woodward Wall by A. Deborah Baker, who is also Seanan McGuire, if you know that author. And this is a middle grade book that's like kind of a portal fantasy. Like these two kids go to this other world. I think it's called the Up and Under. I think that's what it's called, or Over and Under, something like that. And it is so fun. I'm loving it. I'm halfway through. This is basically like a modern version of something like Alice in Wonderland and Wizard of Oz mixed together, like just the ridiculousness and kind of like weird world of Alice in Wonderland kind of thing, but nonsensical. And then also like the traveling and making friends along the way aspect of Wizard of Oz. And they're going to see like somebody, kind of like they're going to see the Wizard and Wizard of Oz. And so it's like combining those things, but putting it in modern times. And I am absolutely loving it. Like if it continues the way it is, this is going to be like a new favorite. Like that's how much I am loving it. Yeah, so I would highly recommend this one. And I'm only halfway through. And I don't know, it can all like dive from here, but I'm just like loving every moment of this book. So yeah, definitely finishing that one soon. And then I have The Haunting of Tramcar015 by P. Jelly Clark. And this one is in his Dead Gen in Cairo or Dead Gen universe. I don't know what the series is called. But yeah, they're like detective novels that are set in an alternate historical Cairo. And I think in the 1910s, somewhere in there. And there are like jinn and angels and other kind of otherworld beings in here, and I really enjoy these. They're just kind of slow for me to read, even though it's a short book, because he puts in so much cultural things, like real historical elements, and then also things from that area, you know, food and clothing and religion and all that. And I'm one of those people that when I see something that I don't know of, that, you know, is relating to that culture, then I want to go and look it up. And so I end up like looking up something on almost every page. You wouldn't have to do that. I mean, you can get the gist of what these things mean as you're reading, but I'm just someone that I want to learn about a different culture and a different time period and all that. And because even though it's alternative, he has real things in there too. And so yeah, it takes me a long time to read these books because I take time to look them up. So I'm only, what is that? About a third of the way in. So I don't think I'll finish this time for the readathon because I like reading them slowly, but I really am loving that one too. I also read a short story from this world. I didn't mention that in my finished things, but yes, I finished a short story. I can't remember the name of it, so I will put that here. And that short story was really good as well. It's in the same universe and loved it. And then one of the other things I'm in the middle of is Spy Family. This is number 2 in this manga. And if you had watched like my video where I was trying manga for the first time, this is one of the series I wanted to continue. And it wasn't gonna be the first one I continued, but it just happened to be that the day I finished like reading book 1, I went on like a Discord that a buddy read Discord that I am involved with, and it turns out they're doing a buddy read or group read of this series. So I was like, hey, I just finished book 1. So I did end up deciding to continue this series first over some of the other manga because of that. And halfway through this one, still loving it. It's still like a cute, fun little manga that I would recommend. Really enjoyed the first one, and I'm enjoying the characters, continuing to enjoy them. And the only other thing that I'm in the middle of is Les Mis. I talked about that a couple weeks ago, that I'm slowly going through one book at a time. There's like 40 some books in here, and still really enjoying it. I have read 2 books since I last mentioned it to you. So I am officially now 30% of the way through this book, or like 32%, which, you know, it's kind of crazy that I've been reading this like the whole year so far, but it makes sense since we are a third of the way through the year. It makes sense I'm a third of the way through the book. It just, you know, it's taking me a long time, but I'm still really enjoying it. I'm at the point where if you don't want any spoilers, this would be in, like, the book is split into also the big sections that are titled different like characters. So I am in the Cosette section. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, like where I am and what I'm liking about it, then skip until the spoilers are off the screen. But yeah, I'm at the point where he already has, you know, he's run off with Cosette and they're in hiding, but then like Javert finds where they are living And like, there were some pretty suspenseful moments. I love it when I actually am really getting into it, because there's so many sections that you're like, okay, blah, blah, blah. You're like talking a lot about things that I don't really care about. So I love it when we get to these moments where I was like at the edge of my seat for this entire last book, because he was running from Javert with Cosette. And I can imagine like what it would be like to be on the run with a little girl and having to keep them quiet and having to, you know, you have to figure out how you're going to escape a situation when you have a child with you. And yeah, it was very suspenseful. I really enjoyed it. I love seeing them together, because that's not really in the like musical and stuff like that. Like, we don't get to this little time period, you know, it jumps so much from her, you know, getting taken in by him, and then jumps to when she's like a teenager or whatever. So we don't get this like time when they're spending together, and I really am enjoying this part of the book. And so that's it. This is probably a little bit of a longer Friday reads than normal, but I did read a ton this week. And that's it for me. I hope you had a good week and you're reading some good things, and I will see you next time. Bye.